More than 2,000 years ago, in a small land called Judea, a child was born who would change the course of human history forever. He was not a king, he had no army, and he owned no great wealth. Yet his name would become one of the most recognized names in the entire world. Long before his birth, ancient writings spoke of a coming Messiah, a promised figure who would bring hope, forgiveness, and salvation. The people of Judea were living through a difficult time, ruled by a powerful empire and waiting for someone who could bring them hope. The Roman Empire controlled much of the known world, including the land where Jesus would begin his journey. Jerusalem was the heart of Jewish faith, a city filled with history, tradition, and unanswered questions. For many people, life was difficult. They lived with poverty, suffering, and the hope that something would change. Religious leaders studied ancient scriptures, searching for signs of God's promised plan. For generations, prophets spoke about a coming Savior, someone who would bring light into a world filled with darkness. And after centuries of waiting, a new chapter in history was about to begin. Mary and Joseph began their journey to Bethlehem, traveling across the ancient lands of Judea. They did not know that this journey would lead to one of the most important births in human history. In the humble town of Bethlehem, Jesus was born, not in a palace, not surrounded by kings, but in a simple place where animals were kept. A child born in the most ordinary circumstances would later change the world forever. From distant lands, wise men followed a bright star across the desert. They brought precious gifts and honored the child they believed was destined for greatness. Jesus grew up in the small village of Nazareth, far away from the power and wealth of the Roman Empire. He lived a simple life among ordinary people. From a young age, Jesus studied the ancient scriptures of his people. These teachings would later shape the message that he shared with the world. Around the age of 30, Jesus began a mission that would change history. He left behind his quiet life in Nazareth and started spreading a message of love, forgiveness, and hope. Jesus traveled to the Jordan River, where he was baptized by John the Baptist. This moment marked the beginning of his public ministry. Jesus began gathering his followers, choosing ordinary people to join him: fishermen, workers, and everyday citizens who would later carry his message across the world. These fishermen left behind their old lives and chose to follow Jesus. They did not know where the journey would lead, but they believed his message was something worth following. As Jesus traveled through the region, thousands came to hear him speak. On mountains, in villages, and along the roads, he shared teachings about faith, love, and forgiveness. Jesus taught that every person had value, even those forgotten by society. He spoke about kindness, mercy, and the importance of loving one another. Jesus spent much of his time with the poor, the sick, and the suffering. He showed compassion to people others often ignored, offering them hope and dignity. Wherever Jesus went, crowds gathered around him. People traveled great distances, hoping to hear his words and witness his actions. Many stories from the Gospels describe Jesus healing the sick, giving comfort to those who had lost hope. To his followers, these acts were signs of something greater. One of the most remembered stories tells of Jesus restoring sight to a blind man. For those who witnessed it, it was a moment of wonder and faith. One night, Jesus and his disciples faced a violent storm on the sea. According to the Gospel accounts, Jesus calmed the waves and brought peace to the frightened disciples. Another famous story tells of Jesus feeding thousands of people using only a small amount of bread and fish. To his followers, it showed his power and compassion. Jesus welcomed children, showing that even the youngest and most vulnerable mattered. His message was not only for the powerful, but for everyone. Over time, many people began to believe that Jesus was more than a teacher. They believed he was the promised Messiah, the Son of God. Before his death, Jesus gathered with his 12 disciples for a final meal. This moment would become known as the Last Supper, one of the most important events in Christian history. Later that night, Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. Knowing that suffering was ahead, he faced his destiny with courage and faith. In the garden, Jesus was arrested by Roman soldiers. He was betrayed by Judas, one of his own followers. Jesus was taken through the streets of Jerusalem, carrying the wooden cross where he would be executed. The crowd watched as the man many believed was the hope of the world walked toward his final moments. At a hill called Golgotha, Jesus was crucified. According to Christian belief, he gave his life as a sacrifice for the sins of humanity. For his followers, this was the darkest moment. The teacher they had followed, the man they believed was chosen by God, was gone. Jesus' body was placed inside a tomb, and a large stone was placed at the entrance. To everyone watching, it seemed like the end of the story. But according to the gospel accounts, something unexpected happened 3 days later. The women who came to the tomb discovered that the stone had been moved and the tomb was empty. The empty tomb became the beginning of a message that would spread across the world. For Christians, it was the sign that death had been defeated. Jesus' followers claimed that he appeared to them after his resurrection. Their fear turned into hope, and they began sharing his message with others. After his resurrection, Jesus continued teaching his followers. He gave them a mission to share his message of hope, love, and forgiveness with the world. For Christians, the resurrection was more than a miracle. It represented victory over death and the promise of new life. From the streets of ancient Jerusalem, a small movement began to grow. What started with a few followers would eventually reach people across the entire world. Today, billions of people around the world follow the teachings of Jesus. His message has influenced cultures, communities, and generations of people. Some see Jesus as the Son of God. Others see him as one of history's greatest teachers. But his impact on humanity remains impossible to ignore. A man who lived over 2,000 years ago in a small corner of the Roman Empire became a symbol of hope, forgiveness, and faith for billions. His story continues to be told because the life of Jesus Christ changed history forever. If you like this kind of content, and if you want to help me spread the word of Jesus Christ, you could support me by leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. This would really help. Thanks, and see you soon.